few stories. And now the fall is coming on again. And you know what? We're still traveling.
There's many a mile I have been on this road. Many a mile I have gone. And I've seen your towns and none the same. There's a lot more difference than just a name. I'm the only home I ever known was a suitcase on the open road.
One of the people we met was Molly Geisler, singing a traveling song on her college campus here in Missouri. That could serve as a kind of theme song for us, because it's many a mile we have been on this road, and it's many a mile we must go. You come too.
And there's many a mile I have been on this road. There's many a mile I must go.
You can't drive very far on the back roads before you make a splendid discovery. America is not homogenized, not yet. Her accents are as different as her landscapes. This country road, where a shower of scarlet and gold washed across our windshield, could only have been in New England. And the voice that described the season could only have belonged to a New Hampshire man.
They say what is so rare as a day in June, a day in October is even rarer, I think. It's just elegant. There's a tang in the air. The tang of October is like the taste of a good fresh McIntosh apple.
In the old days, it was nice and pretty. Yeah, it was nice and pretty.
That is a different, softer, lovelier accent. A South Carolinian describing the death of his small town.
We had the depot over here. The old depot over there. Prettiest thing you want to look at. Prettiest thing been on the road, I believe, at that time. And after that, they tore it down with something. We had people all around them. All they died out. We just started drifting away like that. I hope it'll be something again. Because we got a new generation coming in on here, and we would like for them to see something and want to live here. And we'd want something to come back here. So I would like to see it grow, not go down, if it's possible.
Now there's an accent for you. Not northern, certainly, yet not quite southern either. A purely American voice. Brash, outrageous.
You know, when you go down in the morning to get your coffee and you've not got no cream pitcher there and you have it in an old can or something, you know, and the hole gets stopped up and you have to go to punching around on it. You see, you get your little cream pitcher there and you just reach right over and pour it in your coffee. It's awful nice that way. I'm telling you that that's awful handy if you drink coffee. Did you get 35? 35 now, I want 50. 35 now, but a bit 50. Get 50, sold it to him. 35. If you're going to split some shingles, if you're real sleeking, you got to split you a few shingles. Now, right there's a necessity for sure. You got to have that to split shingles.
Where do you place a voice like that? Well, try Fredericksburg, Indiana, where Howard Struthers Auction Barn is open most every Saturday night.
75 but a bit, $1 now a quarter. $1 a quarter now a half. 125 now but a bit 50.
So we don't all talk like television announcers, not yet. And our country is not all glass and aluminum, not yet. The old mill we came across on Hunting Creek in Maryland ground corn for backwoodsmen in 1681, and Captain Frank Langrell is grinding cornmeal still. But he knows his millstone one day soon will stop.
What's going to happen to this mill when you're not able to run it anymore?
It should be tore down. Tore down, I guess, like a lot of others.
There's no young man looking forward to taking over this mill.
No, I don't know. And I don't know. Take middle like it is today, a fella couldn't really raise a family on the profit you get out of the day. But years ago, you could do it. It was a good living.
So the great gears of the Linchester Mill, which turned to grind corn for Washington's army, will be shut down soon. And the sluice gates will be closed and never opened again. And the water wheel will stop for good. And we'll be poorer for that. The last stern wheel of the last passenger steamboat belongs to the Delta Queen. She has only a year or two to live, so meet her captain now, Ernest Wagner.
How did you get a start in the steamboat business, anyway?
Well, 1927, I came up from Tennessee. My home was in the eastern part of Tennessee. I came to Cincinnati, Ohio to visit some friends, and I saw the Island Queen turn around there in front of the public landing there one Saturday night, and it had about 5,000 little lights on the outside of it, and I thought that was the prettiest thing I ever saw in my life. Sunday, I took a ride on it. Monday, I was working on it, and that's the way I got started on the river.
Let Mark Twain, a pilot himself, take up the story here. A pilot, he wrote, was the only unfettered human being that lived on the earth. Every man and woman and child has a master, but the Mississippi pilot had none.
I first started out in the Louisville and Cincinnati trade in 1916, and I went on a boat that had the record and still holds the record of making the fastest time that was ever recorded between Cincinnati and Louisville and a round trip.
What's this we're coming to now?
Well, that's St. Genevieve, the government dredge. They come along, you know, and dredge the river out where it fills in over high water. And the captain on there, he's from St. Louis, and we always, when we pass there, we play him the St. Louis Blues. So he expects that every time we pass there, you know.
After all these years, Mark Twain wrote, I can still picture that old time to myself now, just as it was then. When we got underway and went poking down the broad Ohio, I became a new being and the subject of my own admiration. I was a traveler. A word had never tasted so good in my mouth before. A steamboat was finer than anything on shore.
Listen to the jingle and the rumble and the roar. You can still ride the Wabash Cannonball, but you'd better hurry. It's all going. All this, the gleaming white tablecloths with a single red carnation facing you, the sound of the great train rushing through the morning from St. Louis to Detroit. The day of the passenger train is nearly over, and this sound is almost an echo now.
The Wabash Cannonball has already shrunk to a pitiful short train. A year from now, it will very likely have passed into history, and with it, the jingle of the couplings, the squeal of the wheels on the curves, and the conductor's song.
All right, here's the way out.
So pause at the crossroads to let her pass. Take one last look. Tomorrow, the Wabash Cannonball won't be a train at all. only a banjo tune.
His mighty rush to this gentle hobo's call. We're riding the rods and brake beams on the Wabash Cannonball.
The next time we pass this way, the Linchester Mill and the Delta Queen and the Wabash Cannonball will all be gone. Of course, you can always buy your cornmeal from the A&P, and you can always get where you're going on a jet plane. It's not the same, but you can do it. What you can't replace are the people. And we've met a few people you ought to know. You can't take America for granted. The countryside is full of surprises. Take, for example, Tarpon Springs, Florida. You drive into Tarpon Springs expecting to find just another small town on the Gulf Coast. And the first thing that hits your eye when you step out is Perseus slaying Medusa. That gives you the idea. Tarpon Springs is not just another American town. The men who talk in the sun speak Greek, and the tune on the jukebox is Greek. And the aroma on the street is of lamb cooking on a skewer, and onion, and oregano. The whole design of the boats in the harbor is unchanged since the golden age of Athens, and their purpose is the same now as it was then, to harvest sponges far at sea. Only Greeks are divers here, and the divers are kings. In port, you can find the spongemen at the Port Said, where the bouzouki plays its ancient song, and the dance of the veils goes on until morning. Or they repair to the coffee shop where no woman may enter to play the old game kunga and to drink the black coffee. George Belirris's father's father's father was a sponge man. And why is he still a sponge man?
Well, because I don't believe anywhere in this country or in this world, for that matter, you can find a more exciting life. There's a gaiety, there's an anxiety, there's a sorrow when you lose men, or when men are hurt, as sometimes they often are. And you exercise, I believe, every emotion that a man can possibly exercise. And these are all realistic. They're not false. There's no pretense, because it's definitely a man's world, and we live in a man's world and think as men. You do things with a certain amount of dignity and with the air of responsibility, and you maintain. So, to work around a group of men that think the same, act the same, feel the same, and still each man is his own man in his own rights, I think that's worth a little bit more than the sign of a dollar bill.
We carried the music of the bouzouki around in our heads for days after that, and George Belirris's words about his life. That's the thing about Americans. You ask them a simple question, and they're liable to answer you. His name is John Franklin Smith. For most of the years of this century, he was a professor here at Otterbein College in Westerville, Ohio. When they made him retire, he is undignified. So after all those years of being a professor, you came here to the gym as a janitor.
That's sir. Exactly what I did, and that was what I wanted to do.
Wasn't that hard work for a man used to being a professor?
Well, it was at first, but I got on to it. I got that sort of a swing to it, you know. For a while, it just almost split me in two, but I didn't have any trouble after I got on to that sort of a rhythmic swing.
Looking back on it, Professor, which do you think was more rewarding, being a professor or being a janitor?
Now, you shouldn't put me on the spot like that. I think I'd have to say every age in life has its own compensation. When I get notions that when I'm getting old, I just shake my feet and jump up and take a walk and and forget that I'm 87 years of age.
You're still looking ahead, too.
Sure I am. Sure I am. I don't want to die. There's too much fun in this world. Sure, a lot of good folks in the world. A lot of them. There's good books to read, and fish to catch, and pretty women to see, and good men to know. Why, it's just all a wonderful life.
As we rolled west, we observed that Otterbein College's professor and janitor emeritus had a point when he said, "There's a lot of good folks in the world, a lot of them." It may come as a surprise in certain great population centers, but most Americans still seem generous, open-handed, and on good terms with their neighbors. And they have consciences to which they listen. A vacant lot in Reno, Nevada. It's in a largely Negro neighborhood. Nobody around here can remember when it was anything but a vacant lot. Now it's going to become a park. Contractors, builders, they're used to getting paid. They're not getting paid today. Heavy equipment operators, they're not accustomed to working for nothing. They're working for nothing. And ordinary people, a lot of them. A kid who's out of a job and a school janitor are digging a ditch. A roofer with a day off is helping. An 84-year-old man who came by to watch figures he can use a shovel too. And a little girl plans to work all day doing what she can do, carrying water. Most of these people were strangers to each other before today. All that they have in common is that they all think there ought to be a park here instead of a vacant lot. And they think they can build a park in 48 hours.
What are you doing right now?
Well, right now we're laying out the forms for a double tennis court that should be in by noon, we hope. This is almost one of the things that people say is impossible, but we're going to prove that we can do it, you know?
Look at those kids over there sawing away.
Well, this little red here, he's a little henchman of mine. This little fella here. He was up bright and early this morning. He said he'd be out here and give me a hand, so he's going to make a pretty good carpenter, you know, before the day's over.
Suppose he's ever used a saw before in his life?
Well, I don't see any fingers missing, so by the night he just might be a confirmed carpenter, really. Okay.
Let anything go wrong in America, and somebody will come along and say, "Look, I have to do something about this." Her name is Pat Shannon Baker.
Over there.
Okay.
As I say, everything's over there to do the job. Okay. I've got to start getting them over here. Yeah. All right, if we can't make it that way, we'll make something else work.
The night Martin Luther King was shot, she sat up late, and what she was thinking was that she had to do something. The idea of building this park was hers, and now it's not just hers anymore. It's everybody's.
Stuff them in there, and we'll take them out.
Saturday night in Reno was always a night for bright lights and action. In this corner of town, these are the bright lights. And this is the action.
That's good enough.
Sunday morning.
Where to put this one at?
Right here, anywhere. Right here. There you go.
And then it was all over, and they planted a tree in a place that never had a tree before. And they applauded Pat Baker, who didn't want any applause and who didn't know what to say. In the end, she said, this was a great big black and white thing. That's what it was. A great big black and white thing.
The park is here, and it'll be a good thing for this neighborhood, which needed a park. A black man leaning on his shovel after it was all done said, this is the only good thing that's happened in Reno since I've been here, 14 years. He didn't mean the park. He meant building the park.
It's many a mile we have been on this road, and it's many a sight we've seen. But you don't have to look. You can close your eyes and listen to America. This is the way Maine sounded to us. And Pennsylvania. Florida. Vermont. We got to Arkansas in duck calling time. We stopped in Ohio to throw rice at a pretty girl we didn't even know. We reached California in the spring when the sheep are on the trail through the desert to the high meadows. In Rhode Island, we rode a merry-go-round. And when we got to New Orleans, of course, we danced down Royal Street. Oh, we know America is not all jazz bands and children laughing. We know that very well. But she is not all disaffection and despair either. The back roads connect up a country that still seems rather fine and strong and enduring. You don't read about this America in your morning paper, but it's there. And if you find that hard to believe, well, there's nothing like a little drive in the country.